I want you to do something before you close your eyes. Place one hand in the center of your chest, right there, over the sternum. Not to control anything, not to correct anything, only to notice. There is warmth there, beneath that hand. The warmth of the heart that beats. The warmth of something alive that has been working without rest since before you were even aware that you existed. Feel that for a few seconds. The warmth, the movement, the presence. Good. Now close your eyes and stay with that sensation of warmth in the center of the chest, because everything that is going to happen in this meditation begins there, not from the lungs, not from the head, not from any mental effort. From there, from that warm and constant point at the center of you. Write a power word in the comments as a recognition that the power to change your life has always been within you. Imagine that this warmth has light. You do not have to see anything with your eyes because they are closed. Just imagine, with the freedom imagination gives, that from the center of the chest a soft light begins to emanate. Not bright like the midday sun, more like the golden light of the early morning hours, when it does not burn yet, when it only illuminates gently. That kind of light that makes everything seem calmer. That light begins to expand, very slowly, without hurry, because nothing that comes from within is in a hurry. Hurry comes from outside, from external demands, deadlines, expectations. What comes from within moves at its own rhythm. The light expands into the entire chest. It fills it softly, and as it fills it, something changes in that area. A small opening, as if the chest had been a little closed, a little protected, without you realizing it. And this light gave it permission to open 1 centimeter more. Only that, 1 centimeter. But that centimeter makes a difference the body notices before the mind processes it. The light continues expanding. It rises toward the throat, and the throat is an interesting place. It is where we store the words we did not say, the emotions we swallowed instead of expressing, the knot from the times we preferred to stay silent so as not to complicate things. This light does not force anything to come out. It only warms that area and gives it permission to release what it no longer needs to keep holding. There is nothing to do with that. Only allow it. toward the shoulders that rise when there is tension and rarely come all the way down in everyday life. There are people who carry their shoulders raised for years without realizing it, as if they were permanently on guard against a blow that could come from any direction. This light reaches them and gives them the signal the nervous system needs to lower that guard, even if only for a while. The shoulders descend 1 centimeter when the light touches them. It pours gently down the arms like warm water, descending and reaching the hands, all the way to the fingers. And along that path, the tension it finds is not pushed away or argued with. It dissolves it, like the sun dissolves fog, without effort, without violence, simply by being present. It also descends from the chest toward the abdomen, the solar plexus, that center of nerves where so much of what we feel nests: anxiety, intuition, enthusiasm, fear. The light bathes it, not to extinguish what is there, but to remind that area that it too can be calm, that the state of alert does not have to be permanent, that there can be a moment, this moment, where nothing requires an urgent response. It continues descending, hips, the lower part of the body that so rarely receives conscious attention, the legs, as if the golden light were accumulating at the bottom of a vessel, filling every space from below. And it also rises toward the head, the nape, the temples, the forehead, where thought sometimes leaves its visible marks as tension between the eyebrows. The light does not push them. It only reaches them, warms them slightly, and in that warmth they yield. The whole body now, filled with that light that began from a point that was always there, beneath your hand, beating, waiting for you to pay attention to it. That warmth, that light, is not an invented metaphor. It is a way to access something real. Heart coherence, the state in which the rhythm of the heart becomes more regular, more wave-like, and that regularity spreads as a signal to the nervous system, to the brain, to every cell in the body, telling them that they can lower their guard, that we are okay, that in this moment there is no threat requiring all the resources of the system. The heart speaks. It has always spoken. The problem is that we rarely listen. tonight we listen. And as you listen, notice something interesting. You are not doing anything spectacular right now. You are not solving any problem. You are not producing anything you can show. And yet, something important is happening. Your nervous system is learning that there is a state different from constant alertness. It is recalibrating. It is falling into the body's memory that this is possible, that you can get here, that there is a path back to calm that does not require external circumstances to change first. That is more valuable than it seems, because most of us have learned to wait for external conditions to change in order to feel good inside. When the difficult project ends, I will relax. When I solve that problem, I will breathe. When the vacation arrives, I will rest. And meanwhile, the nervous system remains in tension, waiting for the moment that almost never arrives, exactly as we imagine it. And when it does arrive, we are so expert in the state of alert that we do not really know how to let go. What you are doing now is different. You are letting go now, with a difficult project still existing, with the problems still unresolved, with the vacation still far away. You are practicing that inner peace is not the prize that arrives when the world finally cooperates. It is a capacity that can be activated from within, even while the world remains what it is. That is the power within you. Breathe from that light, not with effort, without counting, without any special technique. Just let the air enter and leave, carried by that state of calm the light has created. Inhale and feel how the light brightens slightly. Exhale and feel how it expands a little farther outward, even beyond the skin, creating a kind of calm field around you. That field surrounding the body, when the light expands outward, is something ancient traditions described as aura or energy field, and what modern science describes as the electromagnetic field generated by the heart, measurable up to 90 centimeters outside the body. Not a metaphor, a biophysical reality. The heart generates a field that projects beyond the skin, and the state of that field changes according to the internal state of the person. When we are under stress, the field is chaotic. When we are in coherence, in calm, in what you are experiencing now, the field becomes more ordered, more expansive, more stable. You, in this moment, are radiating calm, not as a metaphor, as a biophysical fact. I want you to go even deeper inward. Imagine that you are the ocean, the entire ocean, not a person standing in front of the sea itself. On the surface of the ocean, there is constant movement. Waves, foam, the wind stirring the surface. Sometimes that movement is soft and rhythmic. Sometimes it is turbulent and has no apparent order. It depends on the weather. It depends on what comes from outside. That surface is you during the day. The thoughts that come and go. The emotions that appear and dissolve. The conversations, the plans, the worries, the memories. All that movement on the surface is real, and it is yours. But it is not all that you are. Descend now with your imagination toward the middle layers of the ocean, where sunlight still reaches, but more diffuse, softer, where currents exist, but with less agitation, where the movement of the surface begins to be only a distant murmur. Do you feel it? There is something in you that is calmer than your thoughts, something that remains even when you stop thinking, a level of existence deeper and more silent than the usual noise of the active mind. And also notice that in these middle layers of the ocean, the thoughts that still arrive have a different quality. They are slower, more spaced out. They no longer run into each other like they do on the surface. One arrives. It stays for a moment. It leaves. And before the next one arrives, there is a space. In that space, there is stillness. In that space, if you pay attention to it, there is something that feels like relief. Like when you release something you were carrying, without knowing you were carrying it. You do not have to make an effort to have fewer thoughts. This is not a competition to see how long you can go without thinking. Thoughts will continue to arrive. What changes is the relationship you have with them. You do not have to follow them wherever they want to take you. You can let them pass like fish swimming through the middle layers of the ocean and disappearing in another direction. You see them. You do not become them. Go down a little more toward the bottom. In the depths of the real ocean, there are no waves. The bottom is a place of absolute stillness. There can be a perfect storm on the surface, boats overturning, lightning splitting the sky, and at the bottom of the ocean, there is silence, unchanging, constant. Without the storm above, affecting it in the slightest. That bottom exists within you. That deep stillness that does not depend on life being calm, that does not wait for circumstances to improve in order to be at peace. It is there, beneath everything, even if you do not always notice it, even if life on the surface is complex and noisy. You are there now, at the bottom, in the stillness. Take a moment, with no obligation to do anything with this. Just be at that bottom and notice what is there. Silence, solidity, a presence that does not need to justify itself, explain itself, or earn itself. It simply is. That is you, in your most essential version, before the roles, before the responsibilities, before the name you were given and the story you built. Only consciousness, only presence, only the capacity to perceive that it exists. And now, from that bottom, I want you to see something. Imagine a mountain. You do not have to search your memory or remember any real mountain. Let the one that appears appear. It may be very high, with snow at the summit. It may be more rounded and covered in forest. It may be a mountain of volcanic rock without vegetation. Whatever comes is perfect. Observe it from a certain distance. At first, notice its size, its presence, how it occupies the landscape without apologizing for the space it takes, how it does not move even when the wind passes over it, how it remains the same in winter and in summer, when it is covered in snow and when it blooms, when there is a storm and when the sky is completely blue. The mountain does not fight the weather. It does not tense up when clouds come. It does not rush or grieve when the storm arrives. It simply is, with a solidity that does not need effort in order to remain, with a permanence that does not have to prove anything to anyone. Now imagine that you merge with that mountain, not that you look at it from outside, that you are the mountain itself. Feel the weight, the depth of the geological roots that go hundreds, thousands of meters downward. That is your root, that anchoring to the ground, to what is real, to what does not move, even when everything on the surface changes. Feel the vastness. The mountain occupies far more space than any person can occupy while standing. There is greatness in that. And it has nothing to do with arrogance. Only truth about what you really are, when you do not shrink to fit into the image others have of you. And feel what happens at the summit while you remain. Clouds pass. The wind blows. Sometimes there is snow. Sometimes there is sun. Sometimes the storm is so intense that from far away the mountain seems to disappear inside the clouds, but the mountain is still there. The storm does not define it. The wind does not bend it. Winter does not destroy it. That is you when you access your center. Difficult circumstances are the weather. They pass. They change. They come and go. The anxiety of a complicated period is not who you are. The exhaustion of a demanding stage is not your nature. The confusion of a moment of uncertainty is not your capacity. They are weather, and weather passes. You, the mountain, remain. And in that being the mountain, notice something else. The seasons. The mountain that you are has gone through many winters, periods when everything seemed cold and dark and without apparent growth. Emotional winters, winters in relationships, winters at work, inner winters where motivation disappeared and meaning became diffuse. And the mountain passed through all of them, not because it was invincible, but because it has the kind of solidity that does not depend on the weather in order to keep being what it is. And after winter, spring, always, without exception. The mountain knows this in a way the anxious mind in winter cannot know. The mind in winter believes the cold is permanent, that the darkness will not yield, that this time is different and the thaw will not come. And the mountain simply waits, with the patience of what has deep roots, knowing what the mind still cannot see, that the cycle always completes. Stay with this image for a moment. The mountain that you are, the deep roots, the calm vastness, the weather passing over the summit without affecting what you are at the bottom. Something changes when you truly inhabit this image and do not only think about it, when you feel it in the body, which is still filled with that golden light from the beginning, when the light and the mountain and the stillness at the bottom of the ocean integrate into a single sensation of calm and stable presence. That sensation is the power within you. It is not a spectacular or noisy power. It is not the power to control everything or to feel nothing. It is the power to be present with what is, to not lose the thread of who you are. When circumstances try to define you, to be able to feel fear without becoming fear, to be able to pass through sadness without remaining trapped in it, to be able to face difficulty from a place that does not collapse. That power has been with you your whole life. In the difficult moments, you overcame without knowing how. In the decisions you made when there was no good option. In the times you continued even when you did not feel like it. In your daily faithfulness to your life, even when no one applauded you for it. Think of one of those times, not to recreate the pain, but to recognize the strength. There was a situation that at the time seemed like too much, that made you wonder whether you would be able to handle it, and you passed through it. Perhaps not in the most elegant way, perhaps with help, perhaps leaving behind things you had to leave behind, but you passed through it, and you came out on the other side, different in some way, that with time you recognized as growth, even if in the moment it felt only like pain. That was the mountain responding to the weather. That was the bottom of the ocean, remaining steady, even though the surface was stirred. That was the power within you, functioning, even if you did not call it by that name. You do not need to remember it with words. Just recognize it with a sensation, that slight expansion in the chest when you realize what you have been capable of passing through. That silent recognition that you are more resilient than you sometimes believe when you are in the middle of something difficult. That recognition is also power. Self-confidence is not arrogance. It is the logical result of having observed the evidence. 100% of your difficult days so far, you have passed through. That is an impressive track record that deserves to be recognized. Each one of those times was the mountain responding to the weather. Each one of those times was the bottom of the ocean maintaining its stillness while the surface stirred. You do not need us to give it to you. You already have it. This meditation only helps you remember that it is there, and find the way back when you lose sight of it. Remain in this state for one more moment. The light in the chest, the depth of the ocean, the solidity of the mountain, with no hurry to leave, no urgency calling you, only this moment that is completely yours. And from this very peaceful state, notice something else. The quality of your thoughts when the mind is this still is different, clearer, more honest. When the mind is in survival mode, it filters reality through fear and urgency. Everything seems like a threat or an emergency. The decisions made from there carry that imprint. When the mind is in this state, calmer, deeper, perspective changes. What seemed insurmountable appears as something that can be passed through. What seemed urgent sometimes reveals that it can wait. What seemed confusing begins to have a clarity that was not available before. Not because the world has changed, but because the instrument with which you observe it is functioning differently. This is the silent gift one takes from a meditation, not relaxation itself, although that is already valuable. The clarity that follows, the slight adjustment in the way of seeing that persists in the hours to come. The mountain. You remember, you are when someone at work says something that before would have completely destabilized you. The bottom of the ocean that you remember exists when the surface becomes stormy. This practice is not a luxury. It is infrastructure. It is the foundation from which everything else works better. And there is something else I want to tell you before you return to the surface. Most people seek power in things they can show, in a title, in money, in recognition, in influence over others. And I am not saying those things are bad, but there is a trap in that model. It depends completely on external variables you do not control. The title can be taken away. Money can be lost. Recognition can change. Influence can disappear from one day to the next. The power within you does not work like that. It cannot be taken away because it does not depend on anything external. It cannot be lost because it has no market price. It cannot disappear because it is not a circumstance. It is a quality of what you are. It is the capacity to choose your response to what happens. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote something I have never been able to forget: that absolutely everything can be taken from a human being except one thing: the freedom to choose the attitude they adopt toward what happens to them. That freedom is real power. Power that has no physical form, that no one can take from you, that grows the more you exercise it. freedom, that power is within you right now, not latent or asleep, active, present, available. All this meditation does is remind you of it, help you tune into the frequency of that power instead of the noise of what you do not have, of what is missing, of what went wrong, of what could go wrong. Not because problems do not exist, but because from the center, from the mountain, from the bottom of the ocean, you have access to the part of you that can handle those problems in a way that, from exhaustion and fear, simply is not available. Now, very gently, begin to return. The mountain is still part of you. The bottom of the ocean still exists beneath everything. The light in the center of the chest is still there. But it is time to bring you back to the surface, back to this body, to this room, to this precise moment. Feel the weight of the body supported where it is, the texture of the surface beneath you, the temperature of the air, the sounds of the environment that you had stopped perceiving while you were inside. There is a transition that happens here that deserves attention. You are returning to the external world, but not to the same internal state with which you entered. You have adjusted something, recalibrated something. The nervous system has had a period of real rest, the kind that makes a measurable physiological difference. Cortisol has dropped. Heart rate variability has improved. Brain waves have moved through ranges everyday life does not usually reach. All of that happened while you were simply there, with your eyes closed and your attention turned inward. And beyond the biological markers, there is something more subtle, but equally real. You have spent time in contact with the part of you that does not become exhausted, that does not become frightened, that does not lose its north, that part that is the mountain, the bottom of the ocean, the light in the center of the chest. The more time you spend in contact with it, the easier it becomes to return to it when you need it. Like a phone number you dial so often that you know it by heart, even though you never try to learn it. Gently move your fingers. First the fingers of your hands, then your toes. A small and gentle movement, like someone waking from a dream they do not want to lose completely. Take an intentional breath. Inhale deeply and bring this calm with you, not as something you leave here when the meditation ends, as something you pack and carry, as the inner temperature of a person who knows who they are and trusts what they have inside. The mountain remains the mountain even when you open your eyes. The bottom of the ocean remains calm even when you return to the surface. The light in the center of the chest continues beating even when the hand is no longer there. And if at any moment, tomorrow or next week, you feel that the weather grows harsh and you lose sight of the mountain that you are, remember that you can do the simplest thing in the world. Place your hand in the center of your chest. Notice the warmth and know that the light is still there, that it did not go out, that it never goes out, that sometimes the clouds of what happened outside simply make us temporarily forget that behind the clouds there is always sky. That sky is you. That power is you. It has always been yours. The power within you does not disappear when the meditation ends. It does not depend on meditation in order to exist. It only depends on you taking a moment like this from time to time to remember that it is there. Welcome back, and well done for giving yourself this.